So it
Yeah.
goes back to what you were saying. And when we look at the condition of the planet, like, do we value the planet? Do we value the things that really matter? Like, at the end of the day, when certain things are moved away out of our experience, what do we have? And so, and I think, again, when you think about like the plastic clothes, the money, or certain corporations and things of that nature that we have placed value in, and it kind of has helped us have some level of perceived value, when it's removed, are you still valuable?
And is it being removed right now?
It's in process.
Self-value means making yourself a priority in your own life. It means making your rest a priority over watching TV or surfing social media. When you value yourself, you say stop when someone has crossed the boundary. You treat yourself better than anything you own or anything you've created or what you desire. As a carefully created vessel and an intentionally made vehicle of wisdom and love, you are valuable, period. You are a prized possession of life that should be treated consciously, carefully, and delicately, because how you treat yourself teaches people how to treat you and will always reflect the depth, the breadth, or the lack of value you place on yourself.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun. And today we'll be speaking about where do we place our value. So before we begin, Tarvars, will you bring us into the Call for the Truth?
Well, certainly. And we encourage you all joining us to tune into this frequency. Should we call forth the frequency of truth? Should we call to see the truth in all that we see? Should we call to speak the truth in all that we speak? Should we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we have the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And now that we are in the truth, continue to join us in our pursuit of truth by clicking that subscribe, that bell notification, to continue with the Call for the Truth podcast. So again, we're talking about value.
Yes. The idea of what is it that we value, because it tells us everything about who we are. What do we value? What's important to us? What do we put emphasis on? What is it that we hold in the highest of esteem? And what is it that we tell ourselves about that? Often, when we are examining ourselves, we can easily look at our parents or our grandparents or humanity at large to see the value of what our species values. What do we value as humanity? And then we can bring it down to the more individualized values of our clan, our tribe, ourselves, our families. So we can see that the condition of the planet allows us to see what we do not value. The many species who are gone, the condition of the earth and how we think of it and how we use the resources. Are we thoughtful about how we preserve this for the future? So we come out of, you and I and all the ones listening, and we are grown out of that equation of a lack of value on the planet as a main focus. So we're having this podcast to kind of bring into mind, into clarity, into focus, what are our values? What do we value?
I think it's an interesting point, because it's highlighting that we as humans, we place value into things that aren't really given back. Then when you kind of look at it, it's like, is that really valuable? Or is this something that I've been tricked and convinced to perceive value in, and it's not really given back? So, we've been taught to value corporations. We've been taught to value money at a certain level where it kind of offsets our morals and things of that nature. Again, taught to value cheap clothes. But look at what happens as a byproduct. You know,
Yes.
we have this weird trade-off where we have, just thinking about the cheap clothes, microplastics in the body.
We
Or
value the convenience and the expediency and the ability to buy clothes that are cheap and then wear something different every month because we can just the disposability of things.
so it
Yeah.
goes back to what you were saying. And when we look at the condition of the planet, like, do we value the planet? Do we value the things that really matter? Like, at the end of the day, when certain things are moved away out of our experience, what do we have? You know, and so, and I think, again, when you think about like the plastic clothes, the money, or certain corporations and things of that nature that we have placed value in, and it kind of has helped us have some level of perceived value. When it's removed, are you still valuable?
And is it being removed right now?
It's in process.
It's in process of being removed. So this is very much the reason for this podcast. If our world were to change, and it is changing, and we would have to reframe our values to things that are um, less, not necessarily unseen, but things that may not have a physical understanding, like love and devotion and loyalty and
I
things like that.
honor and respect. I somewhere in my journey, I realized that that point right there, some of the things that have the highest level of value are non-physical.
Right.
And it's wow, because you think it would be the other way around, and that's what we're accustomed to. But I had reached a point in my growth where I was saying to the universe, I just want people to honor and respect me. I just want that in my experience. I value having
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And like, you can't grab honor and respect. It's intangible like
Yes.
that, but you know it when you see it. You can feel it. It's palpable in the exchange.
And it is the truth. The truth is what has always been and what will always be truth, love, exaltation, honor, respect. That's the truth of the
Yeah.
world. And it does manifest in our lives in very tangible ways once we call it in. And I think this is a great place to move into is what in our relationships do we value? Our relationships, not only with the planet, but with the air, with the water, the relationships we have with all things, the relationships with each other, the relationships with our associates. What about our relationship with our parents and our grandparents? You know, where do we have value? Often in our world, everything is so organized around money and sexual energy that if a person doesn't look like they have money, maybe they live in the jungle, or they don't look like they would be a sexual companion, they have no value.
Mm.
They have lost all value in the universe of the person who's
Yeah.
looking. And this is unfortunate. This is an unfortunate thing. So, as if what we would recommend is that you look around the environment you're in and see what has value to you. What do you want more of, and what are you willing to give up? I love what you said. Like, what you really want is respect and honor. That's what we all want. That's what the trees want. That's what the flowers want. That's what the sun wants. Everything wants to feel the acceptance and the gratitude from something else. The thank you, the I want more, and I'm grateful for what you give, whether it's your parent, your grandparent, your child. Everything wants that experience. And we have, as a humanity, have not really developed the exchange. It's not that people don't have it in their experience, but the consistency of it being the moral ground we stand on doesn't really exist.
Yeah. Well, I want to go a little deeper into that because I've seen within myself, but also with clients, where there's certain things that we want in our experience, but through law, universal law, we must first be it. And it's hard to experience that which you are not. It's quite impossible. Yeah.
It's impossible.
So, going back to self-worth, I've seen where, in my experience, and again, alike with others, where you can't quite value or have value for certain things outside of you unless you cultivate the proper value for self, because
Yes.
what's outside of you is you.
Absolutely.
You know?
Everything that we see outside of ourselves in the world that we have allowed and permitted to happen has to do with our values as each individual and as us collectively.
Yeah.
So we are encouraging and would like to speak about this idea of how to begin to cultivate value of self by first recognizing that someone cannot give you what you will not give yourself. You cannot give yourself what you do not have within you. So this idea of learning to cultivate value for self by acknowledging your triumphs. Like, I had a great day today. I was out walking and I heard the birds and I was in nature and the sun was on me and it was warm and it was wonderful. And someone came along and smiled at me. I have value for that. And so now that begins your, what a triumphant morning walk I had. Then I looked in the mirror and I realized that I don't usually look at myself with kind eyes. And I saw that I'm better than I thought I was. I look better than I thought I did. I have more respect for who I am. I recognize that my face is my ancestors' face, and that I love what these characteristics were on my mother and my father, and now I begin to love them on myself.
Yeah.
So now I have more value for my genetics, for my DNA, for my ancestry. This allows me to have more value for self. So now I present myself somewhere in my tribe or my social standing, and I have more confidence because I'm had such a lovely day with the aspects of creation that are mine to adhere to: the sun, the air, the earth. And I looked at my physical material, the vehicle, that my technology I walk around, and I realized this is what I chose and what those who contributed to my beingness gave me, and I'm grateful. Now I have more value. Now somebody looks at me and they think, boy, you look satisfied. You look, I would like to feel as satisfied as I see you feel. So now there's this, you're affecting the morphic field around you with the value you've given to self, and now someone else is affected by it to whatever varying levels and degrees. So that happens to your children, to your organizations, to your group.
Yeah, this is interesting hearing what you're sharing, and I'm seeing it through the laws and principles and mechanics, and see where we just don't know. We've been really removed from the truth of reality and the power of cultivating self-worth and self-value. I want to go back a little bit. You were giving us an example of kind of looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing yourself and being in acceptance and having value for who you are, and kind of going back to what do we value as a society, and seeing how there are personas and identities that are presented to us to value that, and we look up to that and we're like, oh, I guess I need to be that, and I'm taught to value this and try to be that, but when I look in the mirror, I'm not that, so I don't value myself, right? And it's disgusting when I think about it, but I see where the importance of pulling back in and just go back to self, and as you mentioned, acknowledging your victories. For me, sometimes it's as simple as just proclaiming my value. Just I find that a lot of it's up here now we're thinking, and there's been so much negative self-talk, and so much that we don't realize that we've been saying. And then also I think the broadcast and the influence from other things that we've watched that reinforce that.
Yes.
So there's a need for I value myself. I value myself. I value myself. I value myself.
That what you just said is the way to cancel out the unconscious self-talk. You have this thought, if I had known then what I know now, I would have been better at. But the fact is, I am now that improved version that can influence what happened in the past and what happens in the future. So it's so important that we monitor and we stay alert to what we are thinking. I have been in a situation where I'll be standing at the kitchen counter and washing dishes and have a thought that I know is not mine. that may be coming in from a neighbor or being broadcast through the mass consciousness. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
You are not my thought. You must be excused. You may leave the room, you
Hmm.
know. And so any thought that comes in that says something that does not uplift you, that you are your own broadcast. You know, you've been listening to the voice inside your head your whole life to your detriment or to your exaltation.
Yeah.
But deciding that, sitting quietly and deciding that it is my will, that I will support myself by thinking positive thoughts about myself, and that I ask my consciousness to alert me when I say something that's derogatory. I say something that is not in support of me, that is not elevating me, that is not giving me the value that I choose to have.
Yeah. I think
You
that's a
know?
major key. It's sound like mindfulness to me. And I feel like mindfulness gets kind of thrown around a lot, and it's like, is that mindfulness? I don't know. But when I hear you say that, I see a person who is alert and aware of what's happening in the mental space. And, you're living with an aim and a goal to keep your thoughts, your mental
Yes.
space clean and pure, and make sure that it's serving and giving life. And with that, I think it makes it easier to spot when a thought that doesn't support that enters the space. And then
Mm-hmm.
I see you, you shoot it down in an energetic way, and do what you do to transmute it. But uh, would you speak a little bit more on the need for people to be more observant of their thoughts?
It's so important because we are sometimes in situations where others are talking and it's really not available or appropriate for us to jump up and say, I don't agree with that. You know, it's like we're listening to something in a group setting or we're at the movie theater or,
Hmm.
so however, if we develop a strong sense of, I do not accept that. Like, oh, I see what you said there. I don't accept that. Oh, you think that you're better than other people? I don't accept that. I'm not letting that just come in and inform me. And I'm definitely not letting it inform my children. Like, you know what we were just watching and they said that? Let me explain to you how you should be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Instead of unconsciously being in acceptance that someone's greater, someone's better, um, something makes you smaller and them bigger. Like they get to be bigger and I get to be
Hmm.
smaller. So that's really how our dynamic works, is that it is not that their bigness enhances all of us, which is how it should be. It
Yeah.
is that their bigness then makes us smaller, and it's part of the magic of, like, do you feel adequately or inadequately small enough now as I get bigger? Are you feeling less like you can have, do, be everything? So that's kind of the unsaid mass consciousness of, and then we like, oh, you're so great. Oh, you're so big. Oh, I'm just the lowly person who can kneel at your feet. So there's a lot of that going on in our minds when we see people with things on the internet, see people living certain lifestyles. We hear fantastical numbers that mean they have wealth, and then we look in our bank accounts. There's all of this dynamic that really doesn't mean anything, and in our near future we'll see how little it actually does mean.
Yeah.
What's coming is kind of showing us that it would be good if we could get on the right side of this, to value what is really important, which is self, and then to make sure that we value our other selves, that make sure that we have compassion and kindness when we look at another. When we look at a person, we can see they are in the process of growth, as we are also in the process of growth.
Mm.
We see ourselves. I can remember when I understood less than I understand now. I can remember when I couldn't do timetables. I could only do addition. Now I can do them. So I'm in a higher level of understanding than I was, but it doesn't mean I'm greater than someone who's matriculating their process to map to timetables.
Yeah.
This is a more appropriate view, that we see ourselves as growing, and we see that people are moving through their process of growth as we would look at children.
I think that's a very healthy and balanced way to engage with life, and
Yes.
where we're compassionate, but at the same time, we're not in really competition with them.
Yeah, but if we know our timetables, we can teach them to you. Like, yes, I have mastered that level of achievement, and I can share it.
Yeah.
And so if I shut down myself and say I have no value, then I miss the opportunity to share what should have been shared.
See, but I think, even to have that, you have to have value where you don't feel threatened
Yes.
by another or insecure, which I think it's on both sides of that coin. When you're
Yes.
threatened, there's some level of insecurity.
Yeah, because this is a continual experience. There is no end. There is no all the math.
Hmm.
There's always math that's greater.
Yeah.
And there's always levels of where you started. And it's okay. And everybody can find value in that. It's so important to begin to document, memorialize your triumphs. Like, I was triumphant. The people who saw me today it became clear to me that I was valued.
Mm.
The way they talked to me, when I entered their house, the way they interacted with me, I was clear that I was respected, I was valued. And now I know what that looks like. And when I go to a place where that is appropriate, I will do that.
I think that's major. It's making me think about the necessity of reflection and examination of our day. So many of us kind of just go throughout the motions, never take a moment to just pause and think and reflect and look back. Where was the glory?
Yes.
Where were the victories?
Right.
And let me do a little shimmy and happy dance and
Yes.
celebrate, pull that in, and then keep it moving. Because I can see a
Absolutely.
little goes a long way.
The idea of monitoring your thoughts is what I'd like to leave our audience with is pay attention. Are you thinking your thoughts? Or are your thoughts thinking you?
Hmm.
And are you in charge of your thoughts, or are your thoughts in charge of you? Are you watching things that inform your sleep, your dreams, and your thoughts that are not what your direction is? Are you becoming the thing that you have not decided to be because of your interaction with things that are not who you are? So I think that today, if you can pull a card to talk about what we have discussed in our podcast today about value, give us greater clarity. And the card
The theme is freedom. And the maxim reads, if your hands are closed, you will not receive. Let go of whatever you think you have so that you can receive more.
Yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. We thank you for joining us here at the Call for Truth podcast. We invite you to come back again with honor, respect, and gratitude in Lakesh and Veritas.